Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dad Bods and Bad Attitudes. I'm your host, Christopher Samela, and of course, I'm joined by my co-host, my partner in crime, my brother from another mother, candidate for Congress in Florida's District 16, Mark Davis. Mark, you mentioned to me early on you were very excited about this guest that we have coming on today. She'll be joining us in, I think you said, about 15 or 20 minutes. She'll just jump right into the show. Let the folks at home know who our guest today is.
Yeah, super excited about this episode. But obviously I say that all the time, but like we have cleared out the schedule for just one person, right? So we have Dayna Marie Foster coming on, and she is running for governor of Florida. So, she is gaining a lot of momentum out there. If you're paying attention, obviously you got the David Jolly, who is the lead Democrat right now for governor. But honestly, like I haven't heard a lot from David Jolly or what his values are. So it'll be neat to at least introduce a different perspective of maybe a true progressive, a more progressive candidate, a different option out there. So, but she's gaining a lot of traction, and can't wait to talk to her and introduce everybody to her that doesn't know about her. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's going to be a great interview. I've read into her a little bit. She comes from a great background, a great pedigree, and I think will probably have a lot to say that will interest Florida progressives, Florida Democrats, people who generally don't want to see a Byron Donalds governorship. If you're interested at all in seeing anything other than that fat bastard being our next governor, then I think you're going to like what she has to say. So stay tuned for Dayna Marie Foster, who will be on in 15 or 20 minutes. But in the meantime, Mark, there are some topics you and I discussed coming into the show. There's one in particular I just want to bring up right off the bat. And I have some headlines I want to share, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, so I'm going to put this on the screen right now because it just pisses me off.
Yeah, you were heated about something there, so.
All right, so hopefully the folks at home can see this. This is the headline right now on CNN. The left won Michigan. The party may pay for it. I'm not going to leave it there. I'm going to go on to the next website because CNN, do I trust them? Not really. They can shill. They're shillers. They've been known to shill. And they've been known to sort of toe the line and try to give enough to both sides in order to play down the middle, so to speak. But then I went on MS Now and I saw this, and here's the headline. Many Michigan Democrats voted with their hearts, not their heads. That's not always good strategy. So let me just say what these people are saying. Okay, this is obviously somebody has gotten to the mainstream media talking heads. They gave them their talking points and said, this guy's bad news. And they're already, poisoning the well for Michigan voters when it comes to Abdul El-Sayed. And I don't know that much about the guy. From what I've seen, he seems very educated, smart, progressive. There are going to be Democrats that maybe don't like all of his philosophies. And I understand that. But what is bullshit is when the mass media that is supposed to be fair and balanced clearly is not. Like they're in the tank for whoever's on the other side of this. And by the way, Haley Stevens already conceded.
Yep.
So she conceded. She's not winning. She's out. This guy won. Why we don't see the party apparatus get behind their voters' chosen candidate just speaks to why they can't get out of their own fucking way and are barely an adequate opposition party to the MAGA terrorist faction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're barely functional when you, because we know what's going on here. They're feeding these people their own talking points. This is coming from somewhere in the DNC, presumably. Why they're doing it? The guy won. It's over. Back the motherfucker and be done with it.
Yeah.
And try to get him to win, because the alternative is Mike Rogers, who spends more time here near you, as a matter of fact, Mark, than he does back home in Michigan, where he's running for fucking Senate.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have another MAGA shill who doesn't even give a fuck about Michigan, who comes down and hangs out with DeSantis. You can have that guy running for Senate and winning Senate in Michigan, or you could just back this guy and put all your resources into him so that we don't lose a Senate seat, because right now it is 2 Democrats that have the
Yeah.
Senate seats in Michigan. This would be a huge loss if you do not back this guy and put your resources into him. He's a smart, intelligent guy, well spoken, knows how to communicate. In short amount of time, has rallied people behind him, and he doesn't take APAC money.
Mhm.
And I guess we don't like that. So, Mark, you've got some thoughts on it. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, man. I mean, when I heard he won, I was super excited. I think this is huge for candidates in Florida like Angie Nixon. I think that's huge for her. That shows her that she has a solid chance at winning. And actually, when you run the numbers of like Alex Vindman and Angie Nixon versus the Republican, Angie actually comes out leading. So this isn't just like a fluke in Michigan. This is happening even in the reddest of red areas like Florida. So it just shows you, like, I don't know about you, Chris, but like I don't watch CNN anymore. I hardly ever go to their website anymore. Yes, now I still watch sometimes. I'm disappointed to see that they talk negatively about it, but my entire movement. Like his entire philosophy has been our movement. Like, we want accountability on day one. We want foreign influence out of our politics. We want money out of politics, right? So that has been what we have and that crosses party lines. People taking a stand and actually standing for something. When you hear these Democrats saying, yes, I'm going to work across party lines and do this and do that, that's just talking points, right? We don't want to hear that right now. What we want to hear is, we're going to demand this because this is what the people need. We're going to fix the wrongs of the past 10 years because they broke the law and they need accountability and they need to be put up in the Hague. That's the energy that we want. That's the energy that the people need to hear right now. And the Haley Stevens or whatever, it didn't have it, and it's the progressive movement that's going to bring out the voters this round. It's the progressive movement. It's the people that are saying, we're done with billionaires. We're going to tax billionaires and we're going to build up the middle class and we're going to give them education and we're going to give them health care and we're going to make sure everybody has equal access to equal education and health care in this country so everybody can move up the ladder equally, right? That's what we ultimately want, is just an equal, accountable playing field. And that just does not exist with these establishment Democrats and these establishment Republicans on both sides. We are done with it. That's why people are relating with grassroots candidates. It's not about who can raise the most money right now. It's about who can touch the people's heart, because they are begging for a leader to lead them and out of this misery and this insanity that we have right now. So no, it's going to continue. We're going to continue to push the progressive movement. And if Democrats aren't going to get on board, they're just going to have to get the hell out of the way. And you know what, Chris, I'm not even running with a party. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, and we are winning right now. We are kicking ass. We are delivering yard signs left and right, and we're doing it on a shoestring budget. And it's because I speak from my soul and I speak from the truth and I have full transparency. I've videoed and tweeted or posted everything across that I've done along the way, but it comes down to the core fact that I don't want my children to be left a worse country than I was given. And that's
100%.
that's the direction that we're on. So everything that people like Al Sayadi is doing is for the betterment of my family, and I'm going to support the hell out of that over somebody that isn't trying to benefit my family.
But, Mark, that's a great way to put it, is that we're in a position where we're going to be leaving a world to our kids that's worse than the one that we were given. And it'll be the first time this has ever happened. And in fact, we may be in the midst of it right now. It may be happening as we speak. If you want to have a world that's a better world than the one you inherited, if you want to improve upon it, if you want to stop the injustices that are happening in this country and around the world, if you want to stop war, if you want to make health care more accessible, if you want to have more sustainability in this world so that we can grant our kids a better opportunity, sustainability in all forms of all sense of the word, like from the environment to the economy to health to technology, all of that, relationships. If you want to be sustainable, that's the only way we're going to give our kids a better world than the one that we've inherited. And I would say when it comes to, like you were saying, you're relating to people on a grassroots level, you're relating to people on a very direct one-to-one level. They feel what you're saying. They really feel and relate to, and what you're saying is resonating with them. And that's why they're backing you with such passion. And when somebody comes for you, they're by your side to fight because of the way you're positioning your argument as a candidate. And they believe in you and you've been transparent about everything. So they believe in you. And that's what's winning. And the Democrats at the party level don't understand that. And here's what they also don't understand, because the Democratic Party is not the Republican Party. The Republican Party are a bunch of order takers. All of the people at the bottom just listen to whatever their deity at the top says, and they take their orders. And how it works is he feeds his talking points out to his emissaries who carry it out to the media, and they carry it out and they program people what to say and what to think. Okay. On the other hand, the Democratic Party, it's a bunch of rabble rousers at the bottom who get a wild hair up their ass about whatever is motivating them, and they start to drive the train from the bottom up. So when you get one person who, like yourself or Al Sayed, or there are many others, we got our buddy Ron Rivera on the east coast of Florida. When you get people that buy into what you're saying, they're going to back you, and that's going to drive the messaging into the party apparatus, not the other way. We don't listen to I'm a Democrat, been a Democrat for 10 years. Before that, I was an independent. I never listen to what the fuck these guys tell me. I decide what I believe is right and wrong and what we need to do. And then I communicate that upward. That's how this party is supposed to work, because that's how all of us believe it works. And when you have that messaging goes up, it means that the representative is representing the points of view of the people that voted them to get there, that voted them into that position. It's not supposed to be the other way around. They're supposed to be our representatives, not our bosses. I don't take orders from these motherfuckers. So when you hear about, by the way, I'll just make the point, progressives. I'm progressive. But if a progressive doesn't win an election, I don't want to hear about it. Like, they lost. Let's go with whoever. If Doug Jolly is not a big progressive and he goes up against Dayna Foster, who is, and Doug Jolly wins, I'm going with Doug Jolly or Dave Jolly. Pardon me. If Dave Jolly beats Foster, I'm going to go with Dave because he is vouching for the beliefs and the ethics that I have, which is holding these fuckers accountable in the MAGA movement. So if Dave Jolly's the winner, so be it. If in another situation, if Haley Stevens had won instead of Abdul Al-Sayed, the party apparatus was already behind her. I'd like to think that the progressive movement would get behind her, because the alternative is far worse. The alternative here, folks, for those of you paying attention at home and you've got the scorecard and you got the program, the alternative is always way worse when you're talking about MAGA. So when all those Michiganders who stayed at home in 24 and didn't vote for Kamala, you are a big reason why we're here in this fucking situation, because you couldn't hold your nose to vote for an eminently qualified woman because she didn't say something that you needed to hear, I guess.
Mhm.
Well, this is happening all across the country, both ways, whether they're too moderate or they're too liberal. Okay? I don't want to fucking hear it. I don't care who it is. Fucking vote for him, because the alternative is MAGA lunatics, Trump-endorsed MAGA lunatics. Byron Donalds is the first one that comes to mind. The rubber stamp known as Ashley Moody in the Senate here is another one that comes to mind. Mike Rogers, who just hangs out down here in Florida, but should be up in Michigan, is another one.
And really,
Mark, we can't afford it, man. We have to win.
what really like the main difference that I see between like the progressive movement and like the more establishment Democrat, if you want to call it that, whatever, is like the APAC, right? Is that
Yes.
it,
Talk about it.
that seems to be the biggest issue, and and it's interesting because I have a lot of Jewish supporters, and I have a guy that actually owns a business in St. Pete that's Jewish, and he's been with me from like the very beginning, and he understands, right, that APAC, that foreign interest in our government just overall is bad, and that Netanyahu himself is the character that we need to go after. It's not that we're anti-Israel. It's not that we're anti-Jewish or anything like that. It's just that Netanyahu is
You
insane.
mean Nazi Yahoo?
Yeah, Netanyahu. He is insane, right? Like
He's
he's
a terrible, evil human being. Yes.
yes, and he's gonna most likely lose power. It doesn't sound like he has a favorable rating in Israel. So most Jewish people here don't agree with Netanyahu. So it's not an Israel issue. It's not a Jewish issue. It's a Netanyahu. It's a leadership issue.
100%.
It's the same issue that we have in our country.
Yes.
If you're taking money from us right now, I would say you're being funded by a radical regime. Like it's the same thing. You should talk negatively about the United States at the same level that you do Israel right now. And we don't want to take Israel money and just add fuel to that fire. We want to fix it. We want to get rid of all these tyrannical leaders such as Netanyahu, Putin, and Trump, right? We don't want that type of dictatorship tyranny anymore. Tyranny. This is where we draw the line. And
The three of them. I mean, when you think about it, you're talking about 70 to 80-year-old boomers who are just the most horrible, objectionable people that you could possibly imagine. I mean, Vladimir Putin is pure evil.
Mhm.
He's fucking scum. He should be shot in the fucking face with an RPG and then hung from a spire on the Kremlin. The Russian people should fucking pull that cocksucker out of the Kremlin, stomp him to death, piss on his body, fucking hang him from a light pole, and smack him like a fucking pinata. He is the worst piece of shit on the planet. Followed closely by Nazi Yahoo, who is a butcher. I mean, this is just an awful, awful man.
You put Trump.
And then followed only by Donald Trump,
Okay.
very close behind.
Okay.
Who's and I said this in a post the other day. I mean, Donald Trump is the worst piece of human filth this country has put forth since the Civil War, in my opinion. Okay? He is without a single redeemable quality, redeeming quality. He has none. Donald Trump has no redeeming qualities. Zero. He's a horrible person in every respect. And that's why electing him 10 years ago made no fucking sense from the beginning, because he's a horrible, horrible person. And when people tried to rationalize it as they did back then, Mark, and they would say, well, I don't need my president to be a good person to be a good president. The fuck are you talking about? It's the first thing. It's the first fucking criteria he should meet is that he's a good man,
right,
or a good woman. We can't seem to cross that fucking bridge, but they should be a good person. If you cannot even rise to that level, how the fuck are we gonna trust you with overseeing and enforcing the laws of America? Oh, and by the way, imposing laws on Americans, as you've seen what this guy has done.
Yeah.
And all he does is he's got his own private army now, which we can't seem to get half of the government, even half of Democrats, to acknowledge what the fuck it is. I mean, Chris Murphy will say it is what it is. Sheldon Whitehouse will say what it is. But ICE is a private army that he has found a way to budget and fund, and they're full of oath keepers and Jan 6 rioters and criminals. I mean, a number of these people that have been found to be, like I said, Jan 6ers, and all these Jan 6ers are recidivists. They end up back in jail because they're fucking criminals.
Yeah.
And we know that these guys aren't getting proper training, if they even wanted it. if they even had the brain capacity to absorb the proper training to be a law enforcement officer, which I doubt that they do, or that then they don't have the interest. That's what they're there to be, his private army right now. We're going to find out what he's going to really have them do come November, because this might be all fucking fun and games what he's got them doing right now.
Right. Yeah.
Think about it.
I mean,
Like,
and off. I mean, they're beefing up. They're still hiring people, and I think at this point they're supposed to have body cams. They still don't have body cams. There's no.
they don't use them. Mark, July, they had the most arrests or apprehensions of any month on record, 51,000 arrests or apprehensions under DHS in the month of July. I mean, we are a police state and we are a prison state. And make no mistake about it, I don't think walls and detention centers are meant merely to keep out and send out immigrants or even illegal immigrants. As we already know, they've sent out American citizens. People have a legal right to be here, and they've killed Americans. So we know that these motherfuckers are pure evil, and what their objective is, I think, remains to be seen. I think I know what it is. I think this is really what they're trying to do, is be in a position to declare martial law and have a police state so that Donald Trump never has to leave. I mean, he's got the National Guard circling Washington, D.C. He's torn up every fucking aspect of the ground surrounding the main White House building. And he's putting in, he said it, he gave up the game the other day. He's building a fortified bunker underneath the ballroom so that he never has to leave. It's going to be equipped with everything he could possibly want. He'll have probably some kind of battalion of fucking guardsmen there, or ICE thugs, or whatever the fuck it's going to be. And he's going to plan on never leaving. I mean, to me, that's what the end game here is. And these detention centers are to round up dissidents, because they're creating the playbook by which they can arrest people just for being Antifa or Democrats or liberals or whatever the fuck they want to decide someone, a terrorist is.
It was interesting they had Senate hearings today, and they were talking, Ted Cruz was up there talking to somebody about like Muslim Brotherhood and how they're a terrorist organization and they're going to be investigating them. And that was a big deal because they called out like specific countries that they're going to go after, and then they brought up how big of a deal it is in America because, the Muslim Brotherhood is also in America and it's taking a hold. And there's, even American born people that are part of this anti-America Muslim, Brotherhood. And it was just like, oh my gosh, we're going back to like the 1950s or,
oh yeah,
with communism. And then they're going to start.
And they keep saying communism because they want to be able to bring back those old tropes.
Yeah. So they're mixing in that we got this Muslim issue and communism and we're being taken over, and then they said, we don't want this Al-Said guy to be president someday. And that's where we're headed. And, it was like the end of the world today, this in the Senate hearing, and.
Well, Mark, right now, our guest is ready to come in.
All right.
So let's go. Hello, Dayna Marie.
But it won't let me because it says the setting.
Dayna, don't even worry about it. You're jumping right into the show.
Okay.
Mark and I are already recording.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're on the show. Doesn't matter where you are.
Okay.
So you could be doing anything right now. You could pick up your camera, your computer, your phone, whatever you're using.
Okay.
You can walk outside. You can get in an Uber. You could go down to Chili's. Whatever you want to do to take this opportunity to talk with us today, we're happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. I just literally got into St. Pete, so I'm like fresh off of 275. So
nice.
Yeah.
Are you
Great.
Are you going? There's an event tomorrow in St. Pete. Are you going to that? I think it's at the Tampa Bay Rays Stadium.
The Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Event that they're having. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll be there tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. All right. This is freaking awesome. We got Dayna Marie Foster on here. So Dayna, thank you for coming on our show. This is huge for us. I've
Having
been
me.
following you for some time now and sharing some of your material. We just went through your website earlier and kind of introduced the audience to you a little bit. But our audience, is all about accountability, and that's what we want. We're kind of tired of the direction of our country right now, to say it mildly, and we want some real leadership in place that's going to hold people accountable. So before we get into like who you are and what you're all about, I'm just going to hit you with like a really quick hot seat, okay? And we're just
Okay.
going to go through a few questions here, and all you can say is yes or no, okay? Because in my opinion, we don't
Okay.
have a whole lot of time, okay? Because we got the primaries coming up, right? And we don't have a whole lot of time here. So we need to get my audience comfortable with you, okay? So this is the hot seat. And then Chris, if she starts explaining something or getting more than a yes or no, you got to hit that buzzer. All right.
Oh, I got to hit the buzzer?
You got to hit the
Okay.
buzzer. All right.
Hang on. Let me find a buzzer sound effect.
These are yes or no. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. Dayna, are you a progressive? Would you consider yourself a progressive?
Yes.
Okay. Are you for expanding Medicaid?
Yes.
Are you for legalizing recreational marijuana?
Yes.
Are you for raising teacher pay?
1000% yes.
Should Florida invest more in public schools?
Yes.
Should Florida crack down on abuses of ICE?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Should we make state government more transparent?
Yes.
Would you fire somebody in your administration who lies to the public?
Yes.
Would you ever publicly admit when you're wrong?
1000% yes.
And would you put accountability ahead of party loyalty?
Always yes.
And are you going to be the next governor of Florida?
Yes.
Oh,
That's a good one at the end there, Marky.
all
Good
right.
way to end. Mark, can I use the sound effect, Joe, though? How about this? Because I brought it up. I don't want to like just leave it here. If you'll indulge me, Mark, how about this? Um, I'll ask the question and then I'll answer it myself. Donald Trump is the greatest president ever.
No.
But so now we know a little bit more about you. What do you think is the number one issue in Florida right now, Dayna?
There's so many. It's hard to just say one, but I am the type of leader that listens and obviously responds, and just listening to the people. Affordability is at the top of the ticket. We're all experiencing it in some way, shape, or form. Doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. Doesn't matter if you're at the top of the totem pole or at the bottom. We are all experiencing affordability issues across the entire state.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say, affordability is on my top three agendas, for my campaign as well. And, I'm just a middle class dude. I'm not rich by any means. Dayna, I don't know, like your background, where you come from, if you come from, a lot of money, if that's how you got into this, or, maybe talk about your roots a little bit. Yeah. Get my audience comfortable with who you are. What is your story?
Yeah, Dana, are you a trust fund baby? That's what Mark wants to know.
Yeah.
You just got a got a bunch of money laying around?
In no way, shape, or form. I am an individual who has literally been raised by a single mother for the first decade of my life before she married my stepdad. I've watched my mom go hungry just to ensure that I have eaten as a child. So, in no way, shape, or form am I any kind of trust fund baby. Do I come from any kind of money? I am of the everyday working class. And just to kind of give some background about myself, I started as a public servant when I was 19 years old. I worked within the Broward County Library System at the African American Research Library and Cultural Center. And what I have found, and what I tell people all the time with public libraries, is that we are a social good. We are essentially the entity that covers or fills in the voids. Okay. I'm so sorry. So after, being in public libraries, and like I mentioned, essentially we cover the gaps that are created by government whenever poor public policy is passed. So I've helped during my time working in public libraries with whether it's access to internet services for our veterans when they come back from being overseas, helping our youth with homework help, or maybe preparing for the SAT, ACT, helping our seniors navigate through computer literacy, digital literacy in general, helping them even with applications for Medicare, with our small business owners, bridging them to resources like grants and things of that nature. And so having that kind of perspective, right, and that experience with public policy as an end result, I've taken that with me stepping into public education, which is what I have been an educator for the last 5 years. And being a teacher in 2026, I've heard, is not the same as being a teacher in 2006, let alone 1996. And what I mean by that is within public education today, there is no way that you can escape from politics within the classroom, right? And what I mean by that is, for example, if you're a history teacher, you're dealing with the censoring of information that you're teaching to the students. For myself as a math teacher, what I'm dealing with are things like legislation like Don't Say Gay, statutes that limit what type of pronouns I can say towards my students, especially those that might be trans or identify as trans. Then when you take it even a step further, all of us within public education, what we just saw this past year were students who are products of immigrant families were not coming to school because their families were afraid to leave the house because ICE has been patrolling within our communities. I notably have said in a few interviews that when the governmental shutdown took place with the whole, big, beautiful bill, even though it's unattractive in every way.
The big bullshit bill is what we call it.
Right on, as my students would say, clock it. So, and with that being said, it was happening during Thanksgiving, and I had a student who basically their family fell subject to the governmental shutdown and being in that vulnerable space of not knowing whether or not their family was going to be able to put Thanksgiving dinner like on the table. And I think what was so disgusting about our government during that time is that our current sitting governor did not allocate the funds that we have on reserve to ensure that they were given to these families that were placed in this, space of vulnerability. Instead of choosing humanity, he chose hate. And it is something that is highly unacceptable to have displayed as your character being a leader, let alone the governor of the state, especially when you have sitting legislators calling for you to take the executive action to ensure that this area of your constituents are not being left neglected. And so with that being said, it caused me to look towards home to see, okay, what's happening in Florida with our midterm elections, Trump is elected again, unfortunately. DeSantis is going to be termed out, thankfully. So let's see what's happening up and down the ballot, right? So I'm based in Broward. And so looking at all of these different races that are happening at the time before the gerrymandered maps actually came out, Oliver Larkin and Jared's, primary matchup was in my district. Now it's not. I think I fall in District 20 now, and that's even a what kind of show because we've got Debbie in the mix. And
yeah. I was in, and that's what's funny is I was in District 20 and now I'm not.
Okay.
Up in North Palm. So
okay.
Now I have a whole other, got some other chick that I don't know who she is that I'm voting for because,
or something.
we're just doing it. Like I was going to go for, there was a gentleman named Elijah who was running in 20 and he kind of got a raw deal. But, the whole thing, it's worse than just one candidate because when they did all that, it just obviously was done for the reasons of trying to, gerrymander and not have democratic representation in the government. Correct. Because, let's just call it what it is. The entire MAGA platform is cheating at all costs, cheating to win no matter what it takes, no matter if you have to tamper, rig, cheat, lie, steal, use violence, use force, bring government thugs, whatever means they're going to be able to, whatever they can think of, they're going to try to do come this November. This was just one part, it was one phase in their plan. to do that, and they want to do that nationwide. And if I could echo something you just said a moment ago, as you know sort of rewound the tape to DeSantis coming in and then Trump being reelected, I said to Mark right before you jumped on, I said, I think back to 10 years ago when people were voting for Trump, and I said, I just don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
He's a horrible person. I mean, he's objectively a terrible human being, and he's not a good person. Well, I don't need my president to be a good person. I just need them to be a good president. How the first fucking criteria is that they're a good person. If they're not a good person, they cannot be the president.
Right.
Yeah.
And it goes the same to me. It cascades down because obviously Ron DeSantis is another objectionable human being. I
Mhm.
mean, you go back to when he first ran for governor, he put his 2-year-old daughter in a TV commercial and had her saying, "Build the wall." I didn't need to hear anything else.
Yeah, which
There's
was
nothing else I needed to hear out of this guy. I didn't need to see anything. I didn't need to know anything. The fact that he would put his daughter in a commercial and say, "Build the wall," to keep brown people or other people out of the country, that was enough for me. I didn't need to hear anything else.
yeah.
Fast forward, he did all these horrible things, done all these horrible things over the past 8 years. And his capstone on the whole thing was Alligator Alcatraz, which is shut down and removed. And we don't even know where all the people have been moved to. But, it's a horrible thing that he did. It was all illegal. He stole all our money to do it. Uh, he said the federal government was going to pay it. And then Trump was like, I don't know. I don't have the money for you, Ronnie.
It is number one. It might sound kind of weird, but it was like slightly personal vindication for me to be like, you did all of this for nothing, right?
Yeah, right.
But then at the same time, it's also very infuriating because it's like you did this, and again, it's like you're taking our funds, and they're not just any kind of funds. There are emergency response funds. Like, are you kidding me? Right? So, and he does all of this just to cozy up to Trump, just to make himself look attractive for yet again another presidential bid. And it's like, how many times does the American people have to let you know, we don't want you as president? Like, for whatever reason, the fraction of Floridians here in our state, they wanted you as governor not once but twice. All right, cool, bet, whatever. But now your time is done. But in terms of like the country as a whole, they don't want you. So stop trying to cozy up to Trump. Stop trying to mirror Trump, because at the end of the day, you are not Donald Trump, and the American people don't want you as president. And it also kind of goes in alignment with this practice that we're seeing with a lot of public, elected officials, that they are doing things in the best interest of themselves or those that line their pockets and wallets or whatever ambitions that they have. And they're straying away from the foundation of their role, which is public service and ensuring that they are carrying out servitude leadership in service to we the people. That's the whole reason why they were put in office in the first place. So I think just kind of keeping that in mind and, with where I was before I entered the race, when I looked and I saw that the person that was running was David Jolly, I was like, well, who is this? So I did my research. And when I found out a little bit more about him, it was like, you're a former Republican, you served in Congress, you lost your seat to another former Republican that changed to Democrat, and that was it. Like, there was nothing in between in terms of like being able to show the growth and the evolution of really stepping into being a Democrat. Like, you actually only changed your party months before you filed your paperwork. So right there, it already indicates that you are only doing this for political ambition. You are not doing this for public service. You are not doing this for we the people. You are not doing this to be a catalyst of change. You are doing this to make David Jolly relevant again. And last time I checked, no one asked David Jolly to get into this race. What we wanted, it was a true Democrat, one of our Democratic leaders of our party in our state, to step up to the call of action. They did not do that. And so what I did in true American fashion is I became the leader that I was looking for. You only got to be 30 and you have to be a resident of 7 years of the state in order to run for governor. So I did it. And so far we've been resonating with the people because I am one of the people, right? And I'm living through all of these issues that we are having on a daily basis, whether it's affordability, whether it's public education, whether it's gun reformation, whether it's immigration, whether it's healthcare, whether it's economic opportunity, you name it, right? I am living through this, but then also too, I'm directly connected to we the people to also hear the voices of the actual everyday people, not the establishment, because that's who David is cozied up with, is the establishment. And last time I checked, it's not the establishment, it's the people that actually vote.
Yes.
That's a great way to put it, Mark. We were talking before she came on that the Democratic Party is really a party from the ground up. That we don't take orders from Chuck Schumer and whoever the hell else is up at the top of the party.
Correct.
We determine our values. We determine who our representatives are. And we were talking about Abdul El Sayed in Michigan. He won his election. It was very close, but he beat Haley Stevens.
Yes.
And the first thing I'll show you what I showed Mark, and then this just ties in conversationally into what we're talking about here. I'll show this headline. Many Michigan Democrats voted with their hearts, not their heads. That's not always good strategy. That's MS Now.
Mhm.
And then on CNN, the left won Michigan. The party may pay for it. So that just smells a hell of a lot like the party bosses sent their minions out to go get some talking points
Yeah,
to
'cause I was gonna
the
say, what
news
does that even mean?
media, and instead of rallying behind Al Sayed,
Yeah,
they're doing this kind of nonsense. And it doesn't matter. It's not going to work. Put your resources behind the guy who won. And if it were Stevens and the shoe were on the other foot, well, we already know they wanted her to win, but put the money behind the candidates who win.
yeah,
So and I appreciate what you're saying about not waiting for someone to materialize that represents the values that you have. You're going to, put your money where your mouth is and get out there, get in the game and try to beat, obviously Jolly is the front runner, but he's by no means a lock. And you're putting your name in the hat and you're going to try to do everything you can to
Yeah.
win. Why don't you talk a little bit about just give me like two or three policy positions or differentiators that are really important to you?
absolutely. So for myself, and this is what I have curated as like my top 3 to 4 actions that I would be taking within. I always give the time frame of 100 days. And the reason why I say that is just because it is a Republican-led legislature. So I have to be realistic about the pushback that I'm going to get. Doesn't mean that I'm going to stop fighting ever. I'm in this race because I have a backbone, I have a spine, I have the tenacity. And as I say all the time, we don't need a blue wave, we need the blue flame. It's time to fight fire with fire.
Yep.
So what I want to ensure is that we're terminating 287G agreements across all state agencies and the public universities as well, because that falls underneath my oversight. And then I want to ensure that working with the Democratic Attorney General, because I am manifesting that we can also help guide local governments out of their 287G agreements as well, because they have to terminate them on their own. And that way we're working towards restoring home rule within our state, because we talk about it, but it's not actually being exercised right now, especially, considering that Republicans are actually the super majority. The next thing that I want to ensure is that with public education, it's really important to remember that Project 2025, like that plan is still there. It still exists. There's a whole lot of vomit on our TV screens and on our social media feeds that we see on an everyday basis. Like it seems like things can't get worse. And then the next day comes and then
And
it
then
gets
they do.
worse.
Yeah.
Right. But we can't forget that Project 2020 is still being facilitated across this country and then predominantly within our state. And so right now, what we are actually seeing within our school systems this current school year is the rollout of some of that. And so what we're offering through public schools is what they call the FACT program, so FACT. And basically, it is an alternative to AP courses specifically for U.S. history. Why? Because what they are trying to do is change the narrative of the worst parts of our history. And I get it. The truth hurts. But at the end of the day, we have to keep it factual and we have to keep it accurate so that we know where we've been and where we've come from, so we never go back to that place again. And we are doing a disservice to our students who literally are our leaders of tomorrow by dumbing down content just to make a certain subset of our society feel more comfortable about history and what actually took place, if that makes sense. So I want,
Dana, if I could,
yeah.
just to comment on that,
Hmm.
what I think, you look at with the way that, and you're a teacher,
Yes.
the way that the state of Florida specifically has treated public education over the past 20 years is horrifying.
Yeah.
And what they've done to our kids is horrifying. What we've allowed to happen by electing Republican after Republican after Republican, this is what you get. And they lie every single day of their lives to somehow lay this at the feet of Democrats or
Yeah.
whatever else, and woke agendas and CRTs and all the rest of it. All bullshit, because they've been in charge of everything for the last close to 30 years. And that being said, they're doing our kids a disservice. Our kids don't know any different. They just, that we know what they're doing. It's whitewashing so that they can maintain control in in over, and it's, of course, it's white people. Mark and I know it, a couple of pasty bastards that we are. We know what they're really up to and what this is all about. It's trying to control the narrative of what has happened so that they can continue to to oppress people who are different than them and maintain the status quo. I mean, it all is part of one larger picture. It's not merely for the sake of changing history just to change it. This is all part of a big plan.
I always advocate and spread awareness that this is actually about the resurgence of the Confederacy of America.
Yes, correct. Like, there's a
Yeah.
big picture going on here. And I think you can talk about it like as if it were, there's the daughters of the Confederacy, or all these sort of like groups that have transcended the past 150 years. I think that you find that there are strange bedfellows between these billionaires that actually want to create an oligarchical government over the United States, and the foot soldiers that they can get to do their bidding in the form of people who are, easily baited with, things like, racial and culture wars. They can get them to do what they want. They can get them to fight their battles for them. They can keep everybody distracted with nonsense like this while
Mhm.
they pick our pockets,
Yeah.
and then enrich themselves, build their data centers when we're not looking, and then create, like, an architecture in which they can control everybody because they know what everybody's doing. And
Yeah.
then they can have everybody working for them, and they can enrich themselves even further beyond our wildest imagination than they already are. So
Yeah.
I think this is all part of one bigger picture that has been really comes to light now. And you see that, unfortunately, our kids have to pay the price. They can't even go to school and hear that, yeah, by the way, slavery was bad. This really shouldn't be controversial.
Correct.
Nobody said that. But believe me, like, let me speak for myself. And Mark, I've been doing a lot of talking. Why don't you weigh in? When I was a kid, I grew up in New York, and I got a little bit of a different education than the kids down here. Never thought for a second that somebody was blaming me for slavery because black people were enslaved for 300 or 400 years. That wasn't my fault, and I never felt as though I had any responsibility for it. What I took from those lessons was, it's pretty easy. Slavery's wrong. Let's not do it. That's all we had to do. It's all we needed to take from that. And yet, because of these, I think these agendas that these people in this Confederacy, the South will rise again, and all the people that are behind the scenes and behind the curtains on it, we have to like relitigate this thing as if this was any debate. Mark, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you get me going on that topic, like I'll go down that rabbit hole of reparations and everything like that. I mean, I've read the books, like the amount of money that is due to descendants of slaves is astronomical. It's trillions of dollars,
Yeah.
for like all the copyright issues that they weren't being accredited for and things like that. I mean, it's sickening, and it's almost like they want to avoid that entire conversation. And at some point we need to have a true conversation about reparations because I don't think slaves were doing that for free, right?
Wouldn't have been slaves, so that's how that works.
I think it's time we pay them back. But but anyway, yeah, Dana. So let's just a couple more things. Let's bring this back to my district in Florida, District 16. the people of Manatee County, and then we cover a little bit of Pinellas County as well, Sarasota County. But tell us, how are you going to relate to the voters in this area? I would say the voters are, they're mostly, it's red. It's a red area. I think it was plus 11 or something for Trump. But people are frustrated. They're frustrated with the AI data centers, and they're frustrated with the lack of accountability. So how can you relate to the everyday Floridian to get their vote?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually went to Manatee County, was it a month and a half ago? Yeah, because it was like for their 4th of July celebration with the Manatee County DEC.
Okay.
And I was able to speak with, some constituents and also members of the establishment locally. So I was able to hear boots on the ground, some of the concerns from the actual locals. And that's really important throughout this entire process with campaigning, is making sure that you're connecting with as many constituents as possible across all 67 counties, but then ensuring that it doesn't stop when the campaign ends, right? So to address your first question about like accountability and transparency, I know my team posted this clip of me where I made a comment. I was like, I'm young, I'm single, I have no children. I will be the most outside governor you'll ever see. But they left out the context, which was because of that, I will be very present within the community. So
Mhm.
I want to ensure that I'm still being the people's governor. And what that looks like is, yes, having town halls, however often that my schedule will permit it, to ensure that I'm always connecting with the constituents so that they always feel that they have that direct access to me, as they should with any elected official, right? So that I'm always hearing their concerns, hearing essentially boots on the ground, what is happening within their communities, right? Making sure that there's more of that coalition present between state government and local government while respecting home rule, ensuring that there's even coalition between state government and our federal representatives in both the House and the Senate of Congress. We have to ensure that we're being a team, and not just on the Democratic side of things, but even on the Republican side as well. Now, I might get a little bit of pushback from Republican, representatives, and I'm prepared for that, right? They might be like, girl, bye, we don't want to talk to you.
Mhm.
But at least I can let the people know that I tried, right?
Mhm.
And so that's one thing that I will absolutely make sure that we carry out, in terms of my administration, is making sure that accountability is at that forefront. Because being a public servant and being an educator, I'm always held accountable, right? Whether it's through my students themselves, whether it's through their parents, whether it's through my APs or my actual principal at the school where I worked, right? There's always some level of accountability. So I'm not afraid of that at all whatsoever. If anything, I probably will be overly transparent. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
You
Yes.
sound like Mark.
Yeah.
You sound like Mark. Too much information, sharing too much.
That's what my lawyer said.
He told me what color underwear he was wearing.
Well, then I guess great minds think alike.
Yeah.
And then as it relates to Manatee County, specifically, should I win the primary and become the Democratic nominee, I'm already with my team having things starting to be planned to have that Republican outreach, right? Because I think that right now we're not used to a Democrat being so willing to cross the aisle, but still remain like staunchly blue, if that makes sense, right? I have the values, my principles, my foundation. But at the same time, I am very cognizant that this state is comprised of 23.7 million people, whether they are Republican, Democrat, independent, or any other political party in between. And at the end of the day, Florida is our home. And when you approach it on the most simplest of terms, that this is our home, there's actually a lot of positive reception that you get. And I don't openly talk about it, but during this journey, I have corresponded with Republicans. I've even had Republicans come out to some DEC meetings that I have participated in like an unofficial town hall. And a lot of, what I hear from constituents, it's really more or less the same thing, right? As I mentioned before, affordability is at the top of the ticket of everyone's area of concern. It just looks like a different font depending on where you're at in the state, or maybe where you're at, financially in your life, but it's still there and it's still prevalent. I think at the end of the day, there's always going to be maybe some differences in some of our morals and some of our values. And we can continue that work of making sure that we're bridging this divide that we have. But if we more so embrace the commonalities that we have, the overlap that we have between our parties, that's how you're able to create more progress. So with Manatee County in particular, I remember being at that DEC meeting, and a lot of what we talked about were environmental concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And we also talked a little bit about the affordability crisis, but through like home ownership. And so I know I did an interview a couple days ago with a young lady. She's like a student in high school. And she asked me, what is the most favorite part about Florida for you? And I was like, our beaches. I like, our beaches are amazing, whether you're East Coast, West Coast, right? And, when we talk about environmental protections, well, number one, if we want to protect our beaches and especially our coastal line, we have to make sure that we have the appropriate infrastructure in place. So my former marine biology teacher, who actually turned into my colleague, will never, ever let me forget this. So if I don't talk about it, he's going to be like, and it's funny because my brother and my sister went to my alma mater as well. So they had him as their marine biology teacher. But he always talked about the importance of mangroves, right? They're so vital. But they're also like a natural form of protection for our coastal lines. And I'm no science teacher, right? I always say every day, I'm the math teacher. Ask me about a quadratic and an exponential function. I've got you. But,
I was about to ask you about those. Yeah.
Yeah.
like which one? Standard, vertex, but because they're different forms. But there's certain things that you do have to have just a fundamental understanding of. You don't necessarily have to be an expert, but you do have to have an understanding on certain things if you're going to step like into this role.
Mhm.
So one thing that I want to ensure with environmental protections is that we have the necessary people in charge of these state agencies. In 2026, like for a comment like that, it's so highly celebrated. And it's actually a little sad that that's the space that we're in as a society, that like it's so celebrated when someone says like the out loud common sense thing, because we've seen a norm or a status quo that is so staunchly different, right? Normally in these positions of powers, you're having land developers or people with backgrounds like in real estate and no kind of scientific like expertise or educational background like in the discipline at all whatsoever. Crazy.
And Dayna, we do have to start to wrap it up here. I wanted to hit on one thing you said a moment ago, which is,
Yes.
they can say climate change is fake. I mean, the flooding ain't fake. The wildfires ain't fake.
Nope.
The storms ain't fake. You can't fake it. You can say that it was like a weather control machine that the Democrats have or something. We can't win an election, but we can make weather control machines and whatever. But, like the things that actually do cross party lines, I think, and we just want to hear from you on get like more of a yes, no on this is
Okay.
data centers. Yes or no?
Things are
Yeah.
temporary. The people
That's
are
kicking it
asking,
down the can down the road.
I
Yeah.
support,
And then APAC money.
not at all.
No. Yeah.
No
And
APAC,
I
no.
think that people, Americans, are thirsty to hear
Yeah.
their elected officials say, we're not going to take big tech money and take bribes from big tech to put
Nope.
data centers in your backyard. That, by the way, people go, well, we need data centers so we can run all this stuff. We got by without these giant monstrosities that make like deafening brackets. Like they're so goddamn loud. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like we used to, like I never heard of that until these things for AI. So like you don't need it. Let's stop talking like we need that stuff. I think again that their motivations aren't what they say they are.
Yeah.
And then the APAC money. Mark made the point earlier. We don't need some like parasitic government influence from the outside. By the way, we write all these checks to Israel, and then they use that money to bribe our politicians. So
Yeah.
Our taxpayer money ends up bribing our own government to do things not in our best interests.
Hmm.
That's insane unto itself.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear that you feel the same way on that. Mark, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just a couple things.
Yeah.
Dayna, just really appreciate you coming on and
Thank you.
talking to us. It was a great conversation. Great meeting you. And just a couple things. Like you're being a teacher. I think that's super important.
That's awesome.
I think it's the school board is going to be as important as running for governor. I think it's important that we put Democrats on our school board and make sure that our schools have the public funding that they need to survive.
Yeah.
I know a lot of teachers. I have a lot of teachers that are followers that feel like they can't really speak out. They feel like, with their school boards being highly Republican, that they can't really speak out, but they're upset, that they're upset that their pay is some of the lowest in the country.
Yeah.
And, you know, uh, so that makes me excited. The fact that you're a fighter makes me excited. I was, just me as a voter, my campaign to the side, I was thinking like, who am I going to vote for governor? And David Jolly was like the only option, like I was like, who else is there? Who else is there? Who else is
Yeah.
gaining traction out there? Like
Hmm.
I know he was a Republican and I know he
Yeah.
doesn't have the values, and I really do think it's important for us to put a candidate in place that has a true contrast versus the Republican candidate, and that's what's going to excite voters to come out and vote. It's somebody that says we need health care for all and we're a true progressive. So I'll let you wrap it up, Dayna. I really appreciate you being on here. Giving,
And where can we learn about you?
yeah. So
The people, where can they give you money if you're taking donations?
Well,
what
at
can
that
what can we do
website
to help
that
you? Yeah. Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that has
Yeah.
seen.
I love that.
Thank
Let's
you.
go.
As fighters,
Let's go.
and we believe in the power of the people.
Yes. So
I'm
primary.
impressed. I'm impressed. I don't know. This
Thank
is our,
Suitably impressed.
this
Very
is our
good.
next governor right here.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank
do it.
I
you.
feel like I need to stand
So
at attention or something.
it's
So
with
Florida, it's who is it? Fosterforflorida.com.
Yes.
Say it 3 times fast. Fosterforflorida.com.
I like that.
Foster.
Triple F.
Triple A.
Got it. Fosterforflorida.com. All right. Well, for Mark Davis, candidate for Congress in Florida's District 16, and Dayna Marie Foster, candidate for governor of Florida, I'm Chris Samella. We're Dad Bods and Bad Attitudes. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.